I just hope you guys that even if you guys don't relate to my story, that you know someone that needs a little bit of encouragement. That you see someone that's either not being themselves or in a bad situation, and you give them just a glimpse of hope. Because just a tiny little glimpse of hope is sometimes all someone needs for their lives to change. Okay? So I come from a family of 4 sisters, 2 older and 2 younger, and it was an interesting life. So I wanted to impress my older sisters, and I didn't like being called one of the babies. And so I was constantly competing for my parents' attention, for their approval, to be one of the cool ones, and it just seemed like nothing ever worked. And you guys were asked questions about boundaries, and as a little girl, I just knew what I thought was right and what I thought was wrong. But I never shared them with anybody. I was never taught them. And at a young age, those boundaries were pushed and they were crossed. There was one time when I was 10 years old, I'm 10, and I'm in a foreign country, and my sister's like, kiss this boy, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. And he's 15, so he's much older than me. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. And she corners me, he corners me, she tells me you're gonna like it, and she kissed this boy, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. And I remember fighting, thinking, I'm gonna get in trouble, my mom's gonna hear us, I'm gonna get caught, I'm gonna get spanked. And so I just thought, I just need to get this over and done with and get out of here. And so I kissed this boy. And that was something that made me feel like I didn't have control. I felt upset with my sister. I felt very upset with myself. And it kind of led me down a path that I think, had that door not been opened, I would have not gone down that way. So when we're talking about boundaries, our group specifically went toward physical boundaries when it comes to boys, when it comes to even friends and the people around you, who all you let in. And there's something interesting about boundaries, that when you allow them to be crossed, it's very difficult to put that wall back up. And I thought it was wisdom when Gianna said, even if you can put it back up, that person knows a way around it. And so then it's difficult. And then Alex said, I feel like you can put it back up, but for other people, and it's almost like all hope is gone for that person. And so when someone doesn't respect you, 2 things happen. 1, you keep allowing that to happen, or 2, you just cut them out of your life. But if you don't know how to hold your wall of boundaries, you're gonna realize that cutting people out of your life is like running away, and one day you find yourself very alone. So I'd already cut a lot of people out of my life because I made many, many mistakes. And then I got into a relationship, and it was not very healthy. It wasn't very good, but I got attention. They liked me. They took care of me, right? They took me out. They gave me like an ear when I wanted to talk to someone. And something happened where I was afraid to lose them, so I started becoming this other person. I didn't know who I was, because I always did what I was told. And I allowed this person to shape who I wanted to be for them. So if I was a martial artist, I never put up a fight. I was a strong, debating, smart kid in school, I never argued. I was always afraid of ending up poor. I thought we grew up with a lot of hardship, and so when I had a good job, I would want to share it with them so I could keep them. And so I just felt like I started becoming this other person that I didn't like who I was. I was not allowed to have any friends, so no one could tell me like, hey, your life looks a little weird, like it's a little odd. I didn't have anyone around me. I wasn't allowed to see my family. And I didn't think it was a problem that they didn't allow me out of the house. They didn't allow me to see my friends. They were always checking up on me. I look at this relationship, and I ended up moving in with a guy, lost all my freedom because of it. I thought it would make him happy, it would make me happy. The worst. I literally, you're going out? Yeah, I'm gonna do this. No, you're not, sit down. And then I would cancel any plans I had to go out. Once I was able to leave, I look back at the relationship, and I'm like, man, where did it all go wrong? Like, how did I get there? And then I look at the relationship right before, which I only had 2 boyfriends. The one right before was a boyfriend that would hurt me physically, when this one only hurt me emotionally. So I thought it was better. And And the other one, if I told him I had to go to class, I was in college, he would, if I didn't stop at his apartment on the way to school, and he couldn't see what I was wearing, he couldn't control what I was like wearing, he would show up to my campus and like spy on me. And my friends would see him on campus, hey, I saw him on campus, and it would freak me out, I hated it. Because then it would make me really nervous if I was talking to a guy who would get me in trouble with it. And so, I wish someone would have told me early on that I didn't have to change who I needed to be for a relationship. I wanted to be strong for my sisters, so I would end up getting hurt because I would play with the big kids, but I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be smart for my parents, and so I was rude to my friends. I didn't have any friends, but I was the smartest kid in class. But who wants to really be a goody two-shoes? Like, you want to have friends. And for the boys, I just wanted to be the perfect girl that obeyed and did whatever they wanted, even if I didn't want them. I feel like what we don't realize are you're like a cup of water. And every time a boundary is pushed, and every time there's a wound created, there's a hole in your cup. And you start losing a lot of yourself. And it's difficult to help your friend that's having an issue when you're having an issue, because there's no one there to help you. The adults around me didn't understand me. My parents thought I was doing well in school, my teachers thought I was doing well in school, but no one knew I was going through these emotional troubles. Even through the abuses I went through, getting hit, whatever, with a boy, I didn't cry. That's how I held up to my toughness. No one could break me, but it sucked. I wish I would have known that if I had been myself, I would have found the right people that were meant to be in my life.
Wow.
That if I had chosen the right people through the barriers, right? We were talking about walls. If I had chosen the right people through the barriers, that I would have had a community to look out for me. But I didn't want anybody to know I wasn't perfect. I didn't want anybody to know that I was falling apart in an area, or that I wasn't, if I told my friends my boyfriend's hating me, they're like, you're a black belt. So I had more shame on myself, thinking I'm the tough one. I'm the one that defends everybody around me, but I can't defend myself.
Yeah. Wow.
So my cup gets more and more empty. I start filling it up with alcohol. And alcohol started getting me in trouble. But I was a rule follower. I didn't start drinking until I was 21. I didn't start early. I started when I was 21. I was afraid of my mother more than I was the law. So I didn't want her to ever catch me with a sip of alcohol. So I drank 21. I was with my dad. It was very honorable. But then once he told my friends, yeah, I'm drinking, my parents let me drink. Oh no. Another thing. Because now you guys don't know this, but you could spend $200 in one night on 2 bottles of alcohol. It's very expensive, it's very whatever, and to feel like you're being a great friend, you want to buy everyone a drink, or you want to keep drinking to be a part of the party, you end up feeling like crap the next day. You've probably made a mistake that night that you can or cannot remember. You could have humiliated yourself, or violated your own security where your boundaries lie. And then it becomes an expectation of who you become. I feel like, let me go here. Excuse me. Here it is. So I feel like the people that I wanted to look out for me, I was furthest from. And the people I had closest to me were harming me. But I was mad at my family. I'm like, you guys were never there for me. You never helped me. My sisters hated me. My parents didn't love me. I wish someone would have told me. That's my second point. That instead of trying to judge and measure the people around me and how I feel they love me, or how I feel they look at me, I would have measured how much I love them. So yeah, your parents might not be perfect. They might be hard on you. But even instead of trying to be a teenager that's upset and retaliatory and talk back and try to spite them, instead love them more. Love them more. Obey more without them knowing. I used to give my students challenges. I used to have abusive parents or difficult home lives. I go, today for your homework assignment, I want you to wash the dishes without being asked. If you're asked, you have to find another chore. And after a week, the kids would say how great their family was doing, how wonderful people were being to each other. Because when you start helping those around you, there's like a peace that starts getting created. And I was expecting my family to love me so I could love them back, but I was also a wall, and they didn't know how to love me. So I think they're failing, they think I'm failing, and we're not getting across in any way. So I grew up feeling empty, because my love never got filled. And because it didn't, I would look out for boys. They would give me the attention I wanted. Sorry, Abraham, and you guys are like, this doesn't apply to me. But it might. Because there might be a person in your life that you act more brave, or act more silly, or get in trouble at school because you want to impress them. Or you feel like, my parents don't know me, they don't see me, they don't understand me. When in reality, if I really want to look back, I think the last few years, and the adults here know that I would say, I wish my dad would have said he was proud of me. That's all I ever wanted to hear. That's the phrase I've used for so long. And literally this month, I've just been spending so much time with God. And he says, you just didn't hear it. And I'm like, well, duh, that's what I'm telling you. He's like, no. He said it in other ways. So I remember I was talking to one of the leaders recently, and I said, I remember that my dad was really excited when I would make coffee for his friends in the Dominican Republic. And it didn't matter if I was playing, he'd be like, you have to try our coffee, it's the best coffee, and I'm 10 years old. He's like, it's the best coffee, this kid can knock anybody's socks off. He didn't say I was proud of her, but that's what he meant. When I was playing instruments, I played many instruments, and I would just pick up an instrument and play with him, and Dad's like, oh man, you can play that, that's so great. I wish I could play an instrument. He wasn't telling me, but he was proud of me that I was getting good at something, I was practicing and not putting it down. There were so many things that now I can see that he said it, and I never heard it, but I was looking for those words, so I penalized my father because he didn't say it the way I wanted to hear it. And so if I would have known that I just needed to accept the adults in my life for the way they were, he didn't hear he was proud, or that his father was proud of him. So my dad didn't know that anyone else needed to hear it. He didn't know that those words were so important. And now I'm like, darn it, would I have been a better daughter? Could I have been nicer? Would I have been more accepting of his love or accepting of his affection? And then would I have sought other boys? Because I didn't get to hang with my dad because, I didn't think he loved me. But this boy's giving me attention, and he plays with my hair, or he passes notes, and he laughs and whatever. I sought the wrong things because I wasn't getting it at home. And it's so wild if you understood that God literally puts the people in your home that are meant to be in your home. He gave you the mother, he gave you the sibling, he gave you the parent, whoever it is, father, mother, whatever. They're there, and they're there for a specific reason. If you choose to love them, regardless of their behavior. I used to think my mother was abusive and hard and awful, and then one day I just realized she was just a broken girl too that went through a lot. And if I would have seen that and loved her, I could have helped her insecurity, encouraged her. And then guess what happens when I encourage you as a friend? I'm having a bad day. We're back here in the past. What are you talking about? Right? You guys need to talk. And that's how you grow in those relationships. So if you feel like adults don't understand me, do you understand them? Do you try to understand them? Well, you don't realize, as kids, you're like, oh, I just want to grow up. I want my own life, my own responsibilities. I can do what I want. It is so overrated. I tell my sister, I'm like, oh yeah, it's so dumb. We think it's stressful being a student. OMG, no. No. It's difficult for the level that you come up to, but the world only compiles more and more and more. And so if you think, this is as much as my life has given me in 10, 15, 20 years, imagine how much more burden your parents have taken on because of how much older they are, what experiences they have, the responsibility of paying the bills. If you try to understand them more, I'm telling you guys right now, if you walk away with anything, try to understand the adults around you. Ask them about their day and actually care. Ask them, hey, what was your favorite memory as a kid? Start asking them questions instead of them saying, how was school today? You're like, fine. They don't want to ask you about school, but they don't know how to ask you another question anyway. So why don't you start asking questions? And then I feel like the more that you let your own cup be filled, the hole's filled in by choosing to look to God, you're gonna be able to pour out love for them because you're not gonna need it. Oh, I called you, or I did this and you didn't do this and and you're holding everything against anyone. No one's gonna win. No one wins. So there comes a point in time when you are choosing to distance yourself from those that love you because you think you have a right, and you're down because if your boundaries have been crossed, whatever they are. The enemy will strike at you when you feel like you're low, when you already feel like you messed up, when you feel like you failed because you didn't hit the goal, but you were the one with the ball and there was no way you could have missed. Or you could have passed your test if you had just done this or that or the other. Like, we're so hard on ourselves, and we're like, if you guys have to write down or say out loud the things you think about yourself, everyone here would be super shocked. Even things I say to myself still. They'd be like, Rebecca, if you don't slap yourself, I will because you get a shot. Like, that's insane. The things that you can say to yourself are just awful. What you don't realize, we were talking about this, whatever you seek, whatever you look after, that's what you're going to find. So if you think that you're good for nothing, you're going to find good for nothing. If you think you don't deserve the best relationships out there, you're going to have bad friends and broken relationships, bad marriages. What you seek, you will find. The Bible tells us if you seek God with all your heart, you will find Him. I think one thing that I missed being a teenager like you guys is that I didn't really believe God was real. I memorized most of the Bible. I could recite any trivia. I played the Christian, but I didn't actually think He was real. I never talked to Him. I didn't speak to Him like He was actually in the room in front of me. And I feel like if I would have known that that was real, I would have known that there was more hope in my life, that He wanted more for me. The last point I want to tell you guys is that God has a good destiny for you. And you're going to get there. You are going to get to the best life He has for you. It's up to you if it's a straight shot or if you want to keep derailing your life left and right. And the story I'm just going to bring up to you guys as I close is the story of Joseph. You know the story of Joseph? His brothers threw him in a pit. He was imprisoned. He was a slave. Then he was imprisoned falsely. He became number 2 in all of Egypt and saved literally the world during a really great famine. His brothers said, "They're so sorry. We can't believe what we've done for you." He said, "Hey, no. What you meant for evil, what God meant for good." God would have, I know in the depths of my heart, that Joseph would have ended up in the palace either way. His destiny was meant to save lives because of his brilliance, his gift of translating dreams. His brothers made a mistake and God turned it in for good. It wasn't because of the mistake that, oh look, all of a sudden there's a hero. No, the hero was there all along. So I challenge you guys to tell God, I want to listen to you now. I want to believe you're real now. Show me where you are. Watch Him show you where the angels are that hold up those boundaries. Watch Him pull you out of the middle of the street when you're going to get run over because He's like, I'm literally protecting your physical body. And when you think you're going to fall because you're like, oh, well, there's a boy here, I think we're going to kiss tonight. I don't know if I want to. I'm really nervous, but it might happen. Watch Him be the one that makes that person leave or makes you have to go home early, whatever. God can intervene if you give Him that freedom to do so. He won't take your freedom away. You have to give Him, like yourself, your choices, from the smallest to the largest. I want you guys more than anything to get to your destiny without as much brokenness that needs to be healed. So that your cup doesn't have that many holes, and when you're full of love and joy, and you know how to talk to adults and you know how to talk to kids, that you can bring more love and joy into the world. You're not going to be perfect, you're going to make a mistake. You will. It's just right off the bat. But you get to choose if you get right back on the horse, or if you let the devil lie to you and tell you you're going to keep making mistakes, you're going to be worthless, you don't deserve His love. Just keep thinking, my destiny is inevitable. It's inevitable. I'm going to get there. But it's very derailable. Am I going to let my life go left and right, or am I just going to go straight? Choose straight. And tell God, show me where you are in every step that I take. I love you guys.
Rebecca, will you actually pray for us? Just before we start worship. Guys, you've been doing this already. You can get comfortable, hang out with Jesus. I just wanted to say, yeah, you can fold up chairs if you want to find a spot in the room or whatever. I know we got a small group right here, and I just want to say, like, all of Rebecca's preparation and all of the life she's lived and all of the story that she's lived and the learnings that she's come to, that God's given her. What if it was just for you? It's not. Or what if it was just for you? What if all of tonight was just for you? I think sometimes we underestimate how much God wants to encounter us, how much He wants to actually swoop in. Everything can change. How much we underestimate that everything can change in one moment. You know? So have that heart posture open as Rebecca prays right now, and as we go into just the worship. You can get changed by the truth. You can also get changed by the presence of God. You can get changed by worship. With worship in the presence and in the truth. So it's a double whammy. But just have that heart posture, that open heart, that anything can happen. You can leave different as you came today.
Yeah, God, I just pray that these kids challenge you to show up. That they challenge you to reveal your truth and how real you are. So that you can show them who they were meant to be. So you can live in their fullness, and they can impact the world around them instead of needing the world to impact them. Lord, I thank you for their choices. I thank you that they have free will and that wisdom will always be their friend. Lord, I thank you that you chose specifically who would be in this room. I thank you, God, for the honor of being able to live for you. And let these kids have that joy. That their life, that their choices, that how they treat their parents and love them in their hurts and in their brokenness and in their insecurities. Lord, let them change their families starting now. Not when they think they get married and become parents, Lord, but starting now. Starting now. Lord, I pray that you just open their minds and their hearts right now to worship. That they could hear you speak to them these words, that they could feel heaven come down and embrace them where they feel where they need you. In the empty places, in the lonely places, in the misunderstood places. Where they feel scared, or they feel afraid of succeeding, or afraid of losing those around them, Lord. That they can just feel what perfect peace is in you. They are not too young to experience it, Lord. They are meant for big hearts full of big love. So, Lord, I ask right now that you fill them up.